Hi everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. We got another Chevy Cruze in the shop, 1.4 liter turbo to 2015 with 235,000 miles. That's pretty impressive. They can go the distance. Guess what the customer complaint with this one is? The classic rough running, high crankcase vacuum. We've seen this before where the PCV system grenades, and he said this thing, the breather was hissing. There's a vacuum leak, so if this port is sucking vacuum, you know the diaphragm in here is punctured. He had high vacuum at the dipstick. Took it to the dealer. They replaced the valve cover. Well, we know that the initial problem is not with the valve cover, it's with the intake manifold. There's a little flapper in there that basically gets sucked into the engine and creates a giant vacuum in your crankcase. It's a one-way vacuum valve that lives right, internal to the intake manifold where this hose attaches. He's like, you probably saw my video, so you went and bought the aftermarket improvement system. It comes with a check valve that's built in to this hose. So these hoses right here, it comes as a kit. I think it works really well. Attaches to the intake right here, right to the intake manifold right here. There's a T. Now instead of the rubber flapper, we have this one-way valve right here, and that is supposed to be a good solution. So he installed that. No more vacuum in the crankcase. So you would think the car's fixed. But it was still running really rough, really poorly. He checked the spark plugs, they were all black. He replaced the spark plugs and the full ignition coil assembly. It's one cassette Delphi unit, so that's OEM. The check engine light's still on, it's still running rough. He took it back to the dealer and they installed a brand new oxygen sensor. Here it is. I don't know if the OEM sensor comes with a blue whatever sheath. Still had a problem. Then he was getting desperate. He put on an aftermarket mass airflow sensor and an aftermarket absolute pressure sensor, the MAP sensor. Still didn't fix it. He finally brought it over here. So we have to figure out what is wrong with this Chevy Cruze. You see, I'm sure some parts were warranted, but some parts were probably not. He even went out and bought the Dorman kit. It comes with the valve cover and an updated intake manifold that secures that rubber flapper somehow. We have the OEM MAP and MAF sensors right here. But before we plug anything in or swap any parts, let's just look at the codes, look at some live data, see what's how it's running, and go from there. He just says it smells really rich. The codes say it's running rich, so we'll see what happens. Alright, we're inside the car, 235,000 miles, like I said. And read the fault code. 171 fuel trim system lean, 2096 post catalyst fuel trim system low limit. Interesting. Let's hop into live data. In data stream, we want to see oxygen sensors, we want to see fuel trims, mass airflow reading, those basic fuel trim data. So right here, let's do baro, boost pressure, engine coolant temp, both oxygen sensors, long-term trim, MAP sensor, MAF sensor, short-term trim. So we got 9 PIDs. I guess we don't care about baro. I just want to graph 8 PIDs here. Okay, so the map, you can see it's reading some voltage, but instead of voltage, I actually want what the computer calculates in terms of PSI. There we go, 13.9 PSI. That's good at atmosphere. Engine's off. Let's fire it up, see what the oxygen sensors do, see what the fuel trims do. Oh yeah, it's a stick shift. You gotta press the clutch to start the engine. Okay. So once the trims activate, we'll go in a closed loop. See, oxygen sensor 1 and 2 are heating up. Okay, so you're starting to oscillate. So far, looks pretty normal. I'm just going to raise RPMs up a little bit. Look at that, long term's 20, short term's minus 20. So in memory, you had a very high fuel trim in that load cell. And now it's relearning. We're going to let it run for a little bit. Might take it on a test drive. Try to recreate this lean condition, but the code is saying lean, but the customer is saying rich. Black plugs, really stinky exhaust. He said his fuel economy dropped from like 35 down to 21 miles per gallon. Something's really wrong here. But at the moment, everything looks pretty good. But, you know, single digit fuel trims, we're oscillating here. It's running fairly smoothly, so we'll see where it goes. Alright, I made it to the paved road here. Everything still looks just fine. Let's take it for a rip. I've never driven a stick shift Cruze before, and I gotta say, the driving feel is actually really nice. It's quiet, it soaks up all the bumps, no rattles, it shifts really nice. Would I take this over a Civic or Corolla stick shift? Yeah, I actually would. It's more interesting. It does have a little Christmas tree going on, but... Alright, let's keep watching our data. Give it some boost here. Brakes feel nice. Fuel trims are on the money. I hope we can reproduce this complaint. Alright, now I think we're starting to see the customer complaint. Check out the oxygen sensor. The purple line, look, it's basically showing 0 now. It's not responding. Downstream is stuck rich, and look what our fuel trims are going to do. I bet they're going to climb through the roof right now if this oxygen sensor doesn't wake up. Look at that, 36% short term, full rich on the downstream. I trust the downstream. Fuel trims are going way, way up. Look at that long term. 11, 12, 13, 14. We're stuck at 0 volts. I'm revving the engine right now, 0 response. So just with a scanner, some live data, knowing how the system operates, we don't need to go under the hood, do any circuit checks. This thing has a defective upstream oxygen sensor that dies when it gets high. I had to drive the car for about 10 minutes, you know, spooling the turbo to get it to act up. So that's it. That's the diagnosis. Going to quote the customer on a name brand sensor upstream. He doesn't need any other parts in the trunk. We'll reinstall the original mass airflow in the original map and go from there. How about that? Okay, interesting to note that it actually canceled out the fuel trims. They're just 0 now. I'm pretty sure we're going to be an open loop fault if we look at the fuel control loop status. Yep, open loop, and it should have set a fault code, something to do with the oxygen sensor. There it is, heated oxygen sensor, circuit low voltage sensor 1, P0131. That code was not there, you saw it when the car came in. Because sometimes the sensor would work, the car would trust it, and then it would set that lean code. So this time apparently it failed, and we stopped at a stop sign, and it just like kept trying to raise that voltage, and it finally set this code and went into open loop. That's what's supposed to happen, but sometimes it doesn't. You know, the computer's only so smart. So definitely needs an oxygen sensor. We'll get a new one in. I'll install the original mass airflow and the original map. I don't trust these Amazon sensors, even though they're supposedly working fine right now. Give the customer a call. The car should be fixed. Alright, last check while I have the car running here in the garage. You see our oxygen sensors? Upstream is just stuck low. If we unplug it, I want to see bias voltage on there. Make sure that the circuit isn't being pulled to ground otherwise. Let's see. I'll unplug this thing. Okay. This just pulls out. There we go. Alright, there it is. About 2 volts. That's the GM bias voltage. So that sensor is just pulling that signal down the ground for no reason. What brand is this? I don't know. If the dealer installed it, it should be OEM. But I'm going to get another one. Next day, back in the Chevy Cruze, we got a couple parts from Fisher Auto Parts. So Bosch sensors are the OEM for this vehicle, not Denso or NGK. And this one looks identical to the one the dealer installed. So the question is, why did this thing fail so prematurely? Is there another problem to cause it to fail? I don't know, but we know it's bad. Also, the oil, I smelled the oil and it reeks of gasoline because this thing was running so poorly for so long. We're going to replace the oxygen sensor, do an oil change and filter, take this thing for a spin, and I assume it should run perfectly fine. So let's get that done. So I got the old sensor out and it's completely black and sooty. So yeah, would that cause it to fail? Perhaps maybe if you got liquid gas on there at some point, because the customer said that he did find some problems with the spark plugs in the ignition coil. So if it had a misfire and it was just dumping fuel and raw fuel got in the sensor, perhaps that could explain the premature failure. But at this point, this is the only problem that I see. So it could be kind of an effect of previous problems. Let's replace it, oil change, and get this thing back on the road. Look at some scan data. Alright, moment of truth. So, original map sensor reinstalled, original mass airflow sensor reinstalled, brand new OEM oxygen sensor installed, new oil filter, and fresh synthetic oil, 5W30. Ran the money 4 1/4 quarts. Let's clear the codes, fire this thing up, take it for a rip. Alright, we'll just hit the magic button, clear all DTCs. Okay, take the vehicle off, do a reset. Pull up some scan data, see how this baby drives. Alright, here we go. So just warming up at idle. Upstream oxygen sensor is looking beautiful. Long-term trim 0, short-term trim is like around 0. So everything is spot on. Original mass airflow, original map sensor. Everything's working great. So let's take it for a spin, make sure it doesn't do anything weird. Manual. This is actually an enjoyable car to drive, especially with the stick shift. Just butter smooth. It's running great, over 30 miles per gallon on this. Just went to town and back. Scan data looks absolutely gorgeous. Fuel trims are right around 0%, as they should be. So this car is definitely fixed. And it feels like it's got plenty more life left in it. So why did the customer have to take it to the dealer multiple times, you know, throw parts at it? That's because no one did a real diagnosis. I mean, it seems like it was a combination of issues that kind of snowballed. You know, ignition related, the PCV system, and then oxygen sensor. I guess, you know, brand new OEM oxygen sensor failed. And then, since it was just replaced, why would you suspect that to be a bad part? That's exactly where data-driven diagnostics comes into play, because it was an easy diagnosis. It wasn't hard. Just look at scan data. I didn't do any circuit checks. Made the right call. Plus an oil change. This car's back on the road. So sometimes it's nice to to get some easy ones for a change, and customer, I'm sure, will be thrilled. So he can return all his aftermarket parts that are in the trunk, which is nice, hopefully. And then, yeah, keep on cruising. This thing, will it make it to 300,000 or 400,000 miles? I don't see why not. You know, with this transmission, stick shift, at least that won't blow up. Maybe it'll need a new turbo. I don't know. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Oh, a little bonus footage. You always want to scan for codes after a test drive. No DTCs set. That's nice. We can see what the readiness monitors are. Let's see, select all. So CAT is complete, components complete, evap not complete, EGR is fine, fuel system, heated catalyst, oxygen sensor monitor, misfire monitor, heated oxygen sensor not complete yet, but we're getting over about 33, 34 miles to the gallon, like the owner used to. This car's feeling really good. Just wanted to mention that Amazon Prime days are today and tomorrow, July 11th and 12th, and my favorite ThinkTOOL Pro's scanner is on sale. You go to the Amazon store, go through on the scanner's listing, if you have Prime, $935. That's an amazing deal for this scanner. It is my daily workhorse. It's been that way for 2 years. I have tried dozens of other scanners and I keep coming back to this one because it's fast, reliable, has a nice screen. You saw in this diagnosis, that's all it took. Just graphing live data, using some logic. Who could ask for more? So get them while they last, and you know, if I find a better scanner, I promise I'll I'll tell you guys. But so far, this has been my go-to. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.